Marjorie Taylor Greene is getting her final revenge on Donald Trump, as everything she warned Donald Trump was going to happen if he invaded Iran is happening. And she went on CNN to basically say, Donald, I told you, and now you are going to lose your entire MAGA base. The entire quote-unquote America First movement is done. You've been exposed as an utter fraud, and we all hate you, Donald. I mean, she was not mincing words. So first, she was on social media, and she was posting things like this. What is happening to our military? How many are injured? Have more been killed than we are being told? The administration needs to explain to America what's happening. Pray for our military members and their family. Pray for peace. Then she goes on CNN, speaking with Caitlin Collins on CNN, and Marjorie Taylor Greene's like, can I be honest? I have no clue what the hell Donald Trump means when he says things like, the war will end when I feel it in my bones. She's like, what does that mean? And what does it mean when he keeps on saying that he, isn't going to make it to heaven? Why does he keep on saying that? I mean, Marjorie Taylor Greene here seems to indicate that she believes that Donald Trump has some serious cognitive impairment, and even in Donald Trump's mind, that Trump thinks that he's not going to make it too much longer. Why else would he be saying those things, she says. Here, play this clip.
The president said today he would feel it in his bones when this war should end. Is that a clear exit to you?
I have no idea what that means. The same way I have no understanding of what he means when he says he doesn't think he's going to heaven. So those are statements that I find concerning. So I honestly have no idea what that means.
One of the questions, Jen, in that news conference was about the strike on the girls' school that's next to a base in Iran, and it was a Tomahawk missile. The president saying Tomahawks are used by other countries, but an investigation is ongoing. What do we know about where that stands?
Well, that was a bit surprising to me because basically the U.S. has Tomahawks. Tomahawks have to be fired from either submarines or from warships. The Brits and the Australians have Tomahawks, but they're not part of this conflict.
Trump's attempts to control the war narrative are failing, even on Fox News. The first instance came during a segment with Brett Barr and Fox's chief national security correspondent, Jennifer Griffin, who publicly pushed back against the Trump administration's version of events surrounding the conflict. The dispute centered around claims from the Trump administration about a missile strike that had killed more than 170 people, most of them children, in an elementary school in southern Iran, which prompted anger and, rightfully so, calls for an investigation in the United States. Trump has been giving contradicting answers about the incident over the past week. In early instances, he blamed Iran for the bombing, and more recently, he has claimed that, he doesn't quite know the details of the strike.
Yeah. Please, go ahead.
There's footage that shows that an American missile strike and a Tomahawk missile likely destroyed that Iranian girls' school. So will the U.S. accept any responsibility?
Well, I haven't seen it. And I will say that the Tomahawk, which is one of the most powerful weapons around, is used by, is sold and used by other countries. You know that. And whether it's Iran, who also has some Tomahawks, I wish they had more. But whether it's Iran or somebody else, the fact that a Tomahawk is very generic. It's sold to other countries. But that's being investigated right now.
170 people dead, most of them children, buried under the rubble of a school. And the President of the United States stood before the American people and lied about who pulled the trigger. That is where we begin today. Not with politics, not with polls, not with the usual Washington back and forth. We begin with over 170 human beings, the majority of them children, who were killed in a missile strike on a school in Iran. And we begin with the cold, documented, undeniable fact that the administration responsible for that strike looked the American people in the eye and tried to pretend it didn't happen the way it happened. But here is what makes this story different from every other scandal, every other cover-up, every other moment where this administration has bent the truth beyond recognition. This time, the lies are being called out not by Democrats, not by the mainstream media, not by Trump's political enemies. They are being called out by Fox News.
More from Marjorie Taylor Greene, and she goes, what the hell is he doing? Why are we sending thousands of more U.S. military troops right now to Iran? Right, there was news that 5,000 Marine Expeditionary Unit forces are now heading over there. It's going to take them about 10 days to 2 weeks to get there, which is usually the precursor to a ground invasion. It's the same type of Marine Expeditionary force that was used. That was kind of the precursor to ground troops in Vietnam. She's like, what are we doing? What? No one's explained anything here. Here, play this clip.
And it doesn't make any sense. And I'll go further with this. Why are we sending thousands of more U.S. military troops? Why are we sending more of our military resources? Why are we pulling military resources away from other sectors of the world where it's much needed and putting it all there to fight Iran and to have this war in the Middle East?
More from Marjorie Taylor Greene, where she said, you know, he told us last June, that he completely obliterated all of Iran's nuclear capabilities, that there was nothing else to do. And now he's saying they're a week away from striking us with nuclear bombs. She goes, he's a liar. Nothing that he says makes any sense at all. Here, play this clip.
Millions and millions of Americans are outraged by this. He never came to America and addressed the nation and gave clear reasons why we would go to war with Iran, especially after he told us back in the summer that he had completely obliterated all of their nuclear capabilities and had even chastised any news organization or media that said otherwise. But here we are in a war with Iran, and it doesn't make any.
One of the questions, Jen, in that news conference was about the strike on the girls' school that's next to a base in Iran, and it was a Tomahawk missile. The president saying Tomahawks are used by other countries, but an investigation is ongoing. What do we know about where that stands?
Well, that was a bit surprising to me because basically the U.S. has Tomahawks. Tomahawks have to be fired from either submarines or from warships. The Brits and the Australians have Tomahawks, but they're not part of this conflict. And then you also have the Japanese who are in a testing phase. So it seems highly unlikely that it would be anyone's Tomahawk other than a U.S. Tomahawk that hit that school. And I think the president knows that. He just knows that this is certainly a mistake, a big mistake, and it's being investigated, but he's trying to sort of muddy the waters by talking about the Tomahawks.
But Griffin pointed to satellite imagery and investigations suggesting that the strike likely involved a Tomahawk cruise missile, a weapon used by the United States, not Iran. And this raised serious questions about the administration's explanation for this disastrous incident. I mean, new reporting also adds another troubling layer to the story. According to an article from Politico on Pentagon deliberations, military leaders warned Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth not to dismantle offices designed to what? Limit civilian casualties during military operations. Those offices were created specifically to investigate and prevent harm to civilians in conflict zones. But officials say they were dramatically downsized as the Pentagon shifted toward a more aggressive warfighting posture. In fact, staffing tied to civilian protection efforts were reportedly reduced by roughly 90%, with the administration arguing that existing rules of engagement limited military lethality.
The argument is that I, a couple years ago, worked alongside my colleagues to pass into law something called the Civilian Protection Center. This is something that's at the Department of Defense, at the Pentagon, something that has personnel who are focused on this effort of ensuring protection of civilians, of reducing the risks that we see unfold here. The problem, though, is Secretary Hegseth decided to gut this office last year.
I mean, this raises fundamental questions, right, about how carefully this war is being conducted. And to have the pushback come from Fox News, that's quite startling also.
I look forward to the lighting them up tonight, but it's definitely not going to plan if Iran is now exporting more oil than they were before the war.
And they are being called out by Marjorie Taylor Greene, the woman who, for years, was one of the most ferocious, unrelenting, ride-or-die defenders Donald Trump has ever had in elected office. When Fox News and MTG are both standing up and saying something is deeply wrong here, you are not watching politics as usual. You are watching the beginning of a collapse. Welcome to USA Press. If you are not yet subscribed, stop right now and hit that button, because this is exactly the kind of story we exist to tell, and you cannot afford to miss what comes next.
More on some of these powerful moments I thought on CNN, but then she was back on social media. And here's what she said. She goes, I've been on the phone with some of the top America First conservative leaders. We are all in agreement. This administration and the Republican Party is going in the wrong directions on key issues like the war, Epstein, and especially domestic issues. They've been completely hijacked by Lindsey Graham and Mark Levin and the neocon establishment Republicans we all voted against. The future of America belongs to us, the younger generation, not the boomers in charge and their boomer donors. I and others have been doing our part to call out the wrongs and fight back. A large percentage of Americans agree. More from Marjorie Taylor Greene here on her CNN appearance, where she said, look, Trump's never made not just a clear case, he's never made a case at all. Why are we invading Iran? The hell is going on? We're doing it because Netanyahu said that he was going to do it first. That's why we've now lost 13 service members, 200 injured, 10 people very seriously wounded, in addition to the dead, but the number's probably much more than that. We've spent billions of dollars, over $20 billion already in this war. We're sending in this Marine Expeditionary Force. We've destroyed all of our alliances abroad. And now, as a result of this war, gas prices are skyrocketing right now. The price of crude is skyrocketing right now. And so Americans already struggle to afford things, and now no one can afford anything. Donald Trump is literally sending us into this Great Depression right now. What the hell is he doing? Listen to it, Marjorie Taylor Greene. I never thought I'd ever say listen to it, Marjorie Taylor Greene saying, hear her words. I'll just put it that way. Here, play this clip.
I don't know if they have a plan or not, because they've never made a clear case to the American people why they are bombing Iran. They've never made a clear case why they're supporting Israel while Israel is bombing Lebanon, and while Israel totally grazed Gaza, killing thousands and thousands of people and children. No, I don't think they've made a clear case for this at all. And the reality is, this is something that Americans are so fed up with. And we voted to end it. That's what we voted for, to end all of this. Here we are over a year into President Trump's administration, and we're in a full-scale war with Iran that doesn't seem to be ending anytime soon. So no, none of it makes sense.
After sending it over to China, which was supposed to be one of our targets here, that we would actually hurt the Chinese, they end up to be doing just fine from this. The way that the war is being discussed, I'm glad that you actually use that term, but listening to Trump say it's a little excursion, actually it's a war, and this turned out to be easier than we thought, feels very akin to that mission accomplished banner, which what you're saying, Jesse, is basically backing it up. There are massive military accomplishments, especially when it comes to downing the big Iranian vessels in particular. Some of those smaller boats are still giving us trouble. Cutting down on the number of missiles that they're firing, also incredibly important, but we haven't been able to stop their production, and we haven't been able to stop the drones. So the Ukrainians are helping us do that, even though they came to us in August of last year. They had a PowerPoint presentation saying, we've got the right tech to sell you that'll actually help you if you get into a conflict like this. And we just said, no, moving on. We're not going to do anything with that. And now we need them, especially because the Russians are helping the Iranians, even though Donald Trump and Steve Witkoff, gave Putin a call and said, stop doing that. The goalposts have shifted further than a football field. Like Rubio started out, we're talking about ending nuclear programs. We don't talk about that anymore. We're talking about regime change. You call him Ayatollah Jr., that's fine. His legs, it sounds like it's bad, but he's also more of a hardliner than his father. His dad has been killed, his wife has been killed, his son has been killed, and his mother has been killed. He's mad. He's solidifying power, and if he does come out of there, then they're going to put someone else in. The Israelis are even saying we won't be able to go for regime change anymore. So now we're just talking about destroying the ability to launch the missiles. We have to destroy the missile factories. We haven't been able to do that, and destroy the Navy. That one looks like it's good. To the point about it's surgical, but never mind the 180 that died in the Iranian school, over 100 school children. And by the way, the preliminary inquiry report is out, and it does look like it was our missile and that we were going on bad intel. So they need to figure out how that happened. CBS is reporting that drone attack that killed 6 American soldiers in Kuwait, actually far more serious. There are 30 people right now in hospitals. They have brain trauma, burns, shrapnel in them. And we'll see again about the lighting it up tonight. But the cast of characters, when you listen to Steve Witkoff saying, I trust the Russians, he gave an interview yesterday on CNBC, and reporting around what was going on in these actual nuclear negotiations, where it indicates that Steve Witkoff didn't actually even know the terms well enough to understand what the Iranians were offering, does not give me a tremendous amount of confidence.
Fox News has often been the most sympathetic platform for Trump's political messaging, especially surrounding this recent war. But when the topic was also brought up on Fox News The 5, co-hosts were left stunned into silence when Liberal voice Jessica Tarlov pointed out the economic turmoil caused by this conflict and how the American people are feeling the pain at home.
Obvious, based upon what happened last night, and you even previewed on the show, you said the Strait of Hormuz is going to be lit up last night, and it was. And one of those tankers was based in New Jersey. And there are
The strike, the missiles, the lie. Let's get into the details, because the details are everything. A missile strike was carried out that destroyed a school in Iran. Over 170 people were killed. The images that emerged were horrific. The international outcry was immediate. And the Trump White House, true to form, moved with remarkable speed to do what it always does when reality becomes inconvenient. It spun, it deflected, it pointed fingers in every direction except the right one. The administration's story began to fall apart almost immediately, and it fell apart in the most public, most embarrassing, most damaging way possible. Fox News correspondent Jennifer Griffin, a veteran national security journalist with decades of experience covering the United States military, went on air and dismantled the White House's narrative piece by piece. Her central point was devastatingly simple. The missiles used in the strike that killed those 170 people, most of them children, were Tomahawk missiles. And Tomahawk missiles are not Iranian weapons. They are not the weapons of any proxy force, any regional actor, or any adversary of the United States. Tomahawk missiles are American. They are built in America, deployed by the American military, and their presence in the wreckage of that school points in one direction and one direction only. Jennifer Griffin said it on Fox News, on the record, in plain English. The network that has served as the unofficial communications arm of the Trump administration for nearly a decade looked at the evidence and chose the truth over the party line. And that choice, that single remarkable act of journalism from inside the Trump media universe, tells you everything you need to know about how badly this war is going and how desperate the situation has become.
And then she goes on to say, no, he doesn't get a Nobel Peace Prize. This guy's the opposite of the Nobel Peace Prize. She's like, I thought he wanted to stop wars, but not anymore. Here, play this clip.
At one time when he wanted to be the president of peace and he wanted to end wars and constantly talked about no more foreign wars, no ending wars. Of course, I thought he deserved the Nobel Peace Prize. But do I think he deserves it now? No, absolutely not. And I don't think this is what the American people want.
Then she attacks baby boomers in general, and she's like, all these baby boomers that are in power, who are clinging to power, you've ruined our lives. Is what she says. Here, play this clip.
Look, I think there's a big divide, Caitlin, between the baby boomer generation and like Gen X, my generation, and the millennials. Our generations have been the ones that have been sent to fight these wars in the Middle East, and our generations have paid a huge cost, and we want to see it over with. But yet it's the baby boomers that are in power that are just clinging to power, living out the end of their days. It really angers me, Caitlin, because I feel like they're ruining it for the rest of us. They're leaving us with tens of trillions of national debt. Only 7 years from now, Social Security is going to be bankrupt. So me and you, so our Social Security payments are going to be basically a tax, and we may never see a Social Security check. So the direction of America and the divide between the generations, where many baby boomers are supporting this war because that's what they've been told on television, where many of us, we get our news from alternate sources and international news, and we know what's going on. You know, here's the message for the rest of the world. The younger generations of Americans, we don't want war with the world. We want peace. We desperately want peace between all of our nations. We want good trade. We want to have good business deals. And we want to be able to visit your countries and you come visit ours. This is not what we want. This is not what we voted for. Yeah. And I'm certainly praying for our military troops, and I'm praying for the administration to stop the insanity.
She then goes on to talk about how, families getting ready to go on spring break can't afford anything because of Donald Trump. Let's play it.